Up today, but I'd like to call this meeting of the Cuyahoga County Public Works and Contracting Committee to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Calling the roll, Mr. Germana.
Here.
Mr. Miller. Here. Ms. Conwell.
Here.
Mr. Greenspan. Here. Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. There is a quorum.
Okay. Any public comment related to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair, no one is signed in.
Okay, we have the minutes of April 6, 2016. If we've had a chance to review them, if we could have a motion to accept.
I'll move to accept as presented. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. Okay. If there's no objection, I'd like to go to 92 and 93 first. These are the $3 lease agreements, and then we could get into the heavier construction. So, Janine, if you could read 92.
Resolution number 2016-0092, authorizing a revenue-generating agreement with United Cerebral Palsy Association of Greater Cleveland in the amount not to exceed $3 for lease of office space at the Green Road Services Center located at 4329 Green Road, Highland Hills, for the period 5/1/2016 through 4/30/2019.
Okay, if we could have the explanation.
Yes.
Good morning.
I'm here to request approval of
Just state your name.
from the Board of DD. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm here to request your approval of this 3-year lease to United Cerebral Palsy by the board, simply because the board does not own the property. The county owns the property. The reason for that is a Board of Developmental Disability is prohibited by law to own property that's not for residential purposes. The Green Road Center, as all the centers we have, were built, maintained, operated exclusively and entirely by Board of DD funds. However, because they're titled to the county, I need your approval, or we need your approval. The Green Road Center used to be a developmental center where individuals, children used to attend. However, the changes in state and federal law, those individuals or children are now with their local districts. So we have this building. We use it for a variety of purposes, and one of it is to lease it out to some of our partners that provide services to individuals with developmental disabilities. United Cerebral Palsy, in this particular case, serves about 20 multi-handicapped individuals at the center. They provide the services. We subcontract for many of the individuals. A lot of them are on waiver that they bill the waiver for directly, but there's some that are supported through local funds that we contract for. So consequently, to charge them the typical amount we may charge, it would just cost us more when we enter into the subcontract for the services. So we think this benefits both parties, and most importantly, it benefits the individuals. And in that part of the county, services, again, and I stress the word multi-handicapped individuals, is really necessary. And most of these people, I would imagine all 20-some people arrive, they're in wheelchairs, they have therapy as part of their program, OT, PT, speech, feeding programs. There's probably a lot of adapted equipment. So again, I request the approval of this lease.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Yes. Councilman.
Through the chair, I remember this lease agreement before. Didn't CC, a Board of Developmental Disabilities, wasn't it other entities in here besides cerebral palsy?
Yes, there are. Yes, there are. And I think the lease you're recalling is the one we have with Council of Economic Opportunities for Greater Cleveland, which occupies a good portion of that for their Head Start program. And matter of fact, most recently we amended that lease to include kitchen space. So that's probably what you recall.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I see the date is from May 1st
Yes.
through April 30th.
Well, I think when we put it in the system, unbeknown to the young lady that puts it into your system, you change from the one system into another type of system, and that's what caused the delay. But I think we approved it, meaning our board approved this at the end of January, and that's when we submitted it. But again, because that change in the system, the Nova system, that was it, was no longer being used. So consequently, it caused some delays and backed this whole thing up.
Okay, understandable. All right. Yes, Councilman.
Through the chair again, is the lease price $3 for the lease office space? Is that for all the entities that are in the building or just several?
That's for the, well, it's for classroom space and office space, yes.
Okay.
But that would be for any common areas. For example, they may use part of the gymnasium, they may use part of the cafeteria, anything they use outside, that would be inclusive with this.
So
There
the-
are common areas that we allow them to use, restrooms, et cetera.
The kitchen space that will be added on,
Well, the kitchen space was for the Council of Economic Opportunities.
Okay.
Because they prepare meals there, and again, that's not on this particular lease, but on that particular lease, they prepare meals for the children there, and I'm pretty sure that they use that kitchen to prepare meals and send it to other locations that they have Head Start programs
but
at.
the lease price is charged to both entities the same?
Well, Council for Economic Opportunities, I think it's about $14 a square foot. The reason is when they do their federal grant, rent space or funds for renting facilities are included in the grant.
Okay. And this building is owned by who?
Well, it's technically owned by the county of Cuyahoga.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so if there's no objection, I'd like to see this go second reading suspension. Is there any objection to that? Okay, I move that we move this second reading suspension to the full council. Is there a second?
Second.
Any final discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. 93.
Resolution number 2016-0093, authorizing a revenue-generating agreement with Goodwill Industries of Greater Cleveland and East Central Ohio in the amount not to exceed $3 for lease of office space at the Beechwood Adult Activity Center located at 23750 Mercantile Road, Beechwood, for the period 5/1/2016 through 4/30/2019.
Okay. A similar thing, we need your request because it's a county-owned building. Just a little nuance in this building. This is not one we constructed. This is one we purchased. It's probably a stone's throw from the Green Road Center. But this is an active adult training center. So we have probably 180 to 200 individuals that we serve going in there and receiving services provided by the Board of DD by board employees. However, over the years, we've kind of been downsizing, going to private providers, so there's space in that building. And Goodwill is using what I think it's 2,000 and some square feet, and they're running what they call their Computer Again program. And basically, we used to run this program, and what it entails is people donate their computers to the board, and then Goodwill, with the individuals they serve that go to the Beechwood Adult Training Center, they actually refurbish the computers. Once they're refurbished, they're given to families or individuals served by the board free of charge. We also would give those to individuals, children, I should say, attending school, local school districts. So it's a really neat program, and we subcontract for that, so that same rationale, if we started charging them rent per square foot, it would just come back to us, costing us more to subcontract with them. But it's a really neat program. It's been very, very successful.
Okay, any questions from members of the council? Ms. Conwell.
Through the chair, you stated this is located at the Beechwood Adult.
Yes, the program is actually When you look at one of our adult training centers, there's a heck of a lot of floor space. And that was for individuals we serve that were doing production work, doing quote unquote sheltered workshop activities. Well, now part of that floor space is being utilized by Goodwill, and it may be a line or so of individuals doing specific work on this Computers Again program.
Okay. How long is this? Sorry, how long has this been in existence?
This particular program, the Computers Again, well, with Goodwill, they've had it. They've had it for a number of years, but prior to that, the board of DD had its own program, at least 10 years. At least 10 years. That might be a conservative estimate.
Has it always been located at this spot?
No.
Okay.
I think what they used to do when we ran it, we used to store the computers there, and it was our employee that actually refurbished them. That's kind of now shifted. That person retired, so we now shifted that to Goodwill and its program, and they actually have the individuals they serve doing the refurbishing.
And what I'm getting at, I just, utilizing the space, I thought maybe it was new because as the state is making their determinations, as they're closing some of the adult activity centers over the space at the time, that you were actually looking for other people to fulfill.
Your question is a couple years ahead of time, but you're right on. That is probably the reason, because the federal government, not the Board of DD, but the federal government has mandated that programs like the Board of DD cannot provide services directly if they do the case management function, which we are required by law to do. So consequently, by 2024, all the individuals we serve at our adult training centers, even at entrepreneurial activities like Just a Buck and our farms, Cleveland Crops, those services, the actual working with the individuals, will have to be provided by private providers. So consequently, we're downsizing now because we don't want to do this all of a sudden. It's gradual. So as time passes, we probably will have more space available, and hopefully, some providers will be utilizing those adult training centers to provide the services we're currently providing. So it wouldn't be the board providing them, but at least it would be in a board facility. The board would have that presence in the community. A lot of the individuals that have attended those places for 20, 30, 40 years, there would be a familiarity. You're going a little down the road, but you'll probably be hearing this more and more over the next few years.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Can you explain to me the reasoning why the federal government is doing this? I mean, I
Well,
can't.
it's Medicaid and Medicare services, and they just have a rule. They promulgated a rule that any entity that provides case management cannot provide the service. The rationale is very similar in doctor's office, that they don't want the doctor also providing the physical therapy. Because the thought is, well, that doctor is going to always refer or send them to their therapist, as opposed to offering free choice of provider. So this forces our case managers, what we call support administrators, to look to other entities other than the board, because there's, again, that assumed bias that the only reason you're setting up service and supports is because somehow it benefits your program and then eventually your pocketbook. So that's the rationale behind it. It's a shame. It's a shame because for the past 45 years, the Board of Developmental Disabilities and other county boards around the state have really been known to provide quality services. And if I may digress for a minute, but for county boards going back 60-some or 40-some years ago, they helped with deinstitutionalizing individuals. They help providing programs for people that sat at home, and it's a shame. And I realize I'm biased, because I was a school administrator for 30 years doing this. I'm biased, but it's a shame that boards of developmental disability across this state have to go out of the direct service business.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Miller?
To follow up on that line of thinking, is there anything analogous to this in the mental health community where people cannot provide case management and direct service for mental? Are they going in that
It
direction?
would be for any entity, whether it's mental health, whether it's developmental disabilities, whereby you're getting Medicaid dollars. So for those individuals, and I briefly said something, we may have some individuals at our Green Road in the UCP that's funded locally. Doesn't matter. We can continue to provide services to any individual we fund locally. However, when you're getting 60 cents on the dollar from the feds, it's kind of hard to turn your back on that money. So the majority of people that we serve, and I don't know the statistics with the Adams Board, but I got to believe a great many of the individuals they serve would be Medicaid eligible. Therefore, they're going to fall in the same category. You may not have heard it from the Adams Board simply because they haven't provided the services like boards of developmental disability, and that's not their fault. That's state statute. Our statutes allowed for us to do direct services. So that certainly could affect them if they provided any programs.
Okay, thank you.
This is kind of maybe far down the road, but since we got our finance chair sitting there, how is the developmental disabilities, your tax, your funding, how is that affected?
How is it affected by?
All these changes?
Well, it wouldn't.
You have a permanent
We have a
levy.
permanent local levy. That certainly wouldn't change. What would really hurt is if we said, look, the heck with Medicaid. We'll fund everything locally. That cost, again, that would 60% of the cost of services to the individuals, and the majority of our people in our adult training centers are on a waiver. That would significantly handicap us. In addition, all the individuals in residential, that we are not the provider, but yet we have to pay the 40% match on that. If that would all go away, I'm not the financial person, but I think we'd have to come to county council and probably have to at least double the levy if we were going to do it locally.
Okay, that's a little bit out of the parameters of this.
Yeah, it
committee.
is.
So-
But I think you'll, in all honesty, I think over the next few years, you will be hearing more about this. As we downsize our facility, we have tried to get that out to the community. I mean, our individuals and our parents. But I think when it hits home, and it's got to be done by 2024. That's a state mandate. The state entered into agreement with CMS that it has to be done by 2024. As that gets closer and closer, you'll probably hear more about this.
Well, quite frankly, I was hoping to hear the different side of that story, that you may have had excess funds because
No,
of this. So
unfortunately not.
I was just I was looking for money for our health and human services.
Actually, well, we do have a contract with, not Health and Human Services, but we have a few contracts with DCFS to assist them with particular individuals or particular residential people that they have residential needs for. Right now, we have a contract that $250,000 a year for any individual that they serve is in their custody that also has a developmental disability. And the uniqueness of the developmental disability, cost them a lot more. For example, if they put a youngster in a foster home, but because that child is developmentally disabled, they have more needs and it costs them more money, that agreement will pick up that cost. And we have a few others like that. We also have a shared funding with the Adams Board for duly diagnosed people. So some of the people they serve on a waiver, we can assist them with paying for that. So that
That's great. Okay.
extra money, unfortunately, I think right now the biggest part of our budget is paying the 40% match.
Okay. Okay, is there any objection? I'd like to see this go second reading suspension. If there's no objection, I move that we send this to the full council under second reading suspension. Is there a second? Second. Any final questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. It's passed. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. 88.
Resolution number 2016-0088, making an award on requisition number 35625 to PERC Company in the amount not to exceed $7,946,652.90 for resurfacing West 130th Street from Brook Park Road to Lorraine Road in the cities of Brook Park and Cleveland.
Good morning.
Good morning. Dave Marquardt, the Department of Public Works.
Oh, sorry.
Dave Marquardt from the Department of Public Works. This project involves the resurfacing of West 130th Street from Brook Park Road to Lorraine Road. The bids were opened on March 29th, 2016. We received 7 proposals. Seven proposals were pulled from the Office of Procurement and Diversity. 3 bids were received out of those 7 proposals pulled. The Office of Procurement and Diversity assessed a 30% SBE goal for this project. The contractor PERC has met the SBE goal. The engineer's estimate for the project was $7,289,000. We're recommending an award to the lowest and best bidder, the PERC Company, in the amount of $7,946,652.60. This bid is 9% over the engineer's estimate. We have looked at the bid tabulation, and there were some roadway items that were higher than what were estimated. Wearing course removed, under drains, and waterline work were significantly higher than the estimates. And maintaining traffic was higher than the estimated amounts. And I believe based on the timing of the bid that was a little bit later this year for accepting bids, that these items contributed to the higher costs. The project is in Council District 7. Construction will commence around 7/1/16, July 1st, and should be substantially complete at the end of December 1st, 2017, which is about a 17-month time period for construction. Funding for the project will be 48% Ohio Public Works Commission, Issue 1 funds, 39% county, and 13% municipal. The roadway has a poor condition rating. The condition ratings are in the 40 to 54 range, and that's considered a poor rating. The culvert that's part of the project, there are 2 culverts. One of them has a general appraisal of 2 that we had inspected. And we're requesting approval on second reading suspension.
Okay, thank you. It looks like the the low bid was practically, or it's exactly, is it exactly what the estimated cost was?
No. The estimated cost was $7,289,000. The PERC bid
Okay,
was $7,946,000 plus.
okay. I thought I read that it was 7,946,000.
Yes.
So, is this Council District 7? It can't be Council District 7.
Oh, I apologize.
name on it, but I'm like, it's not.
I was gonna say, somebody must have gerrymandered.
I apologize for that.
Thank goodness it's not Public Works that deals with numbers all the
It's
time.
a
making the
typo in the,
presentation.
because I'm like, it's got me.
Okay. Any questions? Mr. Miller, go ahead.
First of all, by way of history, I would share that this road was last resurfaced in 1985, the year that Carol and I were married. So it's been a very long time, and it's very much needed. And it is in my district, in District 2. And I would ask what kind of construction work and how far do we expect to get completed in the 2016 construction season? Are we gonna see any actual road work done, or is it more preliminary in the first year?
Yes, we should see some road work getting done this year by the end of the year. The work involves partial and full depth pavement repairs, curb replacements, ADA compliant curb ramps, sidewalks, traffic loop detectors, signs, traffic signals, culverts, manhole catch basin and water valve adjustments to grade, and a water main relocation.
There is a section of West 130th Street between the two overpasses. That's roughly between Lena Avenue and Sprecher Avenue, and in that section, there's virtually no curbs. It's just flat, and I'm wondering whether there's anything going to be done to correct that problem and create some curbing in that area.
The project does involve curb replacements. I would presume that we are, but I could check that to make sure and get back to you.
Would you do so? Let
Yeah.
me know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Ms. Conwell?
Just in general, through the chair, in regards to these road projects, when they're so extensive, is it just the postcard that we send out to the neighbors that are affected in regards to the road work, or is there some other kind of, because this is a pretty long project in regards to residents that live over there. So how do we handle those type of things?
This one in particular, I think we've talked with the Cleveland to schedule a public meeting. But resurfacing projects in general, it takes a lot of staff time, and we feel that we can be effective by sending out the public flyers, and we have contact numbers on those flyers so that they can get a hold of someone from the county. And if there's any issues that need to be addressed, we will coordinate that through the contractor. But for this particular project, we are scheduling a public meeting.
Do we keep records of those individuals that contact Public Works in regards to road resurfacing or?
There would be notes in the inspector's reports of when they talked with the individual and what was done.
Yeah, I just was wondering if that was if people really respond to that, and if we kept data on that in regards to their various questions and concerns. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Miller?
Have you set up a date yet for the public meeting?
No, I don't think that date's been established. We wanted to make sure we had information from the pre-construction meeting first. The contractor has to tell us what his schedule is, what items of work are going to be done first, and what the timing is. So we want to make sure we have that available for the public meeting.
And would you let me know when the public meeting is going to be?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Through the chair.
Okay.
It was on that point.
Okay, go ahead.
On Councilman Miller's point, if you could just in general, any time that any of us have some contracts that in depth, we would all like to be, just notified so we can attend those meetings.
Yes. We originally weren't going to have one for this. It was just recently that we had talked with Cleveland. They were requesting that we do have one. I did see we were working on some of the drive aprons, and it would affect people's driveways, so I figured we better get in there and go ahead and talk to them. That's why we scheduled it.
Okay, Mr. Greenspan?
Great, thank you. My answer may be premature to the legislation that was just passed regarding the disparity study package of legislation. You said there was a 30% SBE goal
Yes.
with this, and PERC has met that. Just from a procedural perspective, two questions. Number one, with that goal, would you at that time determine set-asides, minority set-asides, or SBE set-asides? And then secondly, if a waiver is offered to a performance bond waiver, how would we be notified of that as well?
I think.
I understand it may be premature, not in this piece of legislation, but I'm just curious on an ongoing basis how we would know both those points.
Lenora Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. If it was a set-aside program, project, and/or if it was going to be a waiver for the bond, that would have to be specified when we bid the project so that all participants would be aware of what the requirements were for that project.
And how would that be? So if this was presented and it was identified as a 30% SB goal, would it then be presented at the same time that of that goal, 20% was part of the set-aside program, and all vendors that were pre-qualified, or we have a pre-qualified situation with 2 or 3 of the vendors that are be working on this project? How will that, I'm trying to understand how it'll be communicated. I know it's not in this one, so it's more of a forward-looking notification. How will we know when we get this legislation if there is a minority set-aside and or a performance bond waiver of any of the vendors?
Okay. Lenora Lockett again. So as you know, we're going to start the process with the Department of Public Works. So the first way we're envisioning starting with the set-aside program is that it will be a complete project. So we'll have to advertise that only county certified small businesses will be able to submit as prime bidders for that particular item.
So no subs.
And at this point, we envision a goal because we want, as part of the SB set, and again, it may not be on every project, because again, for the SB set aside, which we are in the process of complying with the ordinance and preparing a draft of our selection criteria, this project is kind of long or extensive, so it may not be a $7.8 million project. It may be more of a $2 or $3 million project. So again, based on the smaller size of the project, we'll have to determine also before we bid if that set aside will require the SBE primes to subcontract and have a sub goal for the SBE, MBE, or WBE participation. As far as the bond waiver, I know Darlene White is preparing that. The process of the actual detailed parameters for that program. But again, all that information will be detailed ahead of time as part of the advertisement. And our overall plan is to still this summer do some type of outreach and training for the prime bidders, our pool of prime bidders, and also for SBEs, MBEs, and WBEs, so that we can go over those details. So as we prepare that calendar, they, again, in addition to not the calendar will give them a more lead time, but then as we advertise these items, they'll have the specifics in the bid.
Okay, great, thank you.
So Lenore, as long as you're up there, you know, we've given a lot of business to PERC, and they've done excellent work, because a lot of them have been in my district. But I noticed that they are part of they're getting 20% for themselves. Are they getting close to exceeding the SBE guidelines, or?
Nora Lockett again. I know that they generate a decent amount of revenue. As a general contractor, I believe the limit is above 30 million at this, it's way up, it's at least 34.5 million. That was the last one I recall. And for our program, you have to have 3 years of exceeding the limit to be graduate from the SBE program. But now that we have, again, I can't remember the ownership for PERC. Well, in this case, they wouldn't qualify for MBE, WBE, but that doesn't have a revenue limit.
Okay, so
So I
then,
was going to say that they might, even if they graduate, some companies, if they are owned by a minority or a female, they may exceed SBE at some point, but still be eligible based on ownership to be an MBE or WBE. Now we only have, prior to the legislation, we only had a small business. So that was based on simply the revenue generated by that company.
so let me just, and I'll get to your question, but just to follow through on this. They're getting 20% credit. Is there a max of 20%? I mean, because,
Yes.
so
And
they
the
only,
max
they
of-
only could use themselves for 20% for the SBE.
Towards the credit, yes. So
Okay.
as the prime, they can do more than 20% of the work, obviously. As the prime, they're going to be doing
Exactly.
a significant amount of the work. However, the goal of our program is to provide opportunities, not only in prime, but subcontracting to pull those other companies along. So if you are an SBE or MBE or WB that has progressed to the point that you can serve as a prime, you still receive a credit up to 20%, whatever the goal. And generally, our goal is a maximum of 30%. So at least you have to give 10% opportunity to other certified companies to get an opportunity to learn and progress and develop.
Okay. Okay, who had a question down here? Anybody else? Mr. Miller?
I just wanted to make a motion to refer 2016-88 to the full council with recommendation for second reading suspension.
Okay, it's been moved. There's a second. Moved and seconded. Any final questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. 88 is moved to the full council. 89.
Resolution number 2016-0089, making an award on requisition number 35901 to the Ruling Company in the amount not to exceed $1,382,353.88 for replacement of Lakeshore Boulevard Bridge number 01.12 over 9 Mill Creek in the village of Bracknell.
Mr. Marker?
Dave Marquardt from Department of Public Works. This is the Lakeshore Boulevard Bridge over 9 Mile Creek in Bracknell. It's a full replacement of the bridge. Bids were opened on March 15th, 2016. 6 proposals were pulled from OPD, and 4 bids were received. The engineer's estimate was $1.4 million. We are recommending an award to the lowest and best bidder, the Ruling Company, for $1,382,353.88 at approximately 1.3% under the estimate. The project is in Council District 10. Construction period will be for 6 months, starting about May 31st of this year and going through November 30th of this year. Funding for the project will be 80% federal local bridge funds and 20% county road bridge funds. The bridge has a general appraisal rating of a 3. That means it's in serious condition. We've been coordinating the design and construction sequence with the village of Bracknell from the beginning of the original planning. It's the main route through Bracknell, so we had to consider what needs that we had to meet to satisfy the community. We have a tight time frame during the summer where the contractor will be allowed to close the road and detour traffic. So we ask for approval on second reading suspension.
Okay. Questions of council? I'm glad to see that this is under the estimate. Glad to see there's competitive bidding. Any questions? Ms. Conwell?
Through the chair, the individual company that won the bid, where is Sharon Center, Ohio? I see the other ones were within the county, and just wondering, how did our 3% or community business ordinance play into this?
The next lowest bidder was Suburban at 1.5 million, so there was a significant difference between the ruling bid and the next lowest bidder.
Where's Sharon
So-
Center?
I can't tell you exactly where.
It's
Sharon
just
Center-
south. It's just south. It's Summit County, I believe.
It's not in Summit.
Is it
It
not
might
Medina?
be Medina. Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's Medina.
Because it's Ridge Road, so
Okay.
it's close to Hinckley.
So did our ordinance play any role for the next bidder or anything like that?
No, it didn't.
Okay.
The gap between the ruling and the next lowest bidder was significant.
200,000.
Yeah, I see.
Lenore, you have something to add?
Yes, the Cuyahoga County-based business program, it allows in-county bidder if they're within 2% of that bid. The current bidder, the difference between the low bidder and the next lowest bidder was more than 2%. The 2% would have brought it at about 1.4
Okay.
million.
Yeah, so this is definitely a significant savings.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so since we need to get this through on a short timetable, I'll move that this goes to the full council under second reading suspension. Is there a second? Second. Any final questions on this? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, it gets moved to the full council, second reading suspension. 90.
Resolution number 2016-0090, making an award on requisition number 36115, excuse me, to Katz Construction in the amount not to exceed $1,578,431.43 for 2016 Operations Resurfacing Program Group 5, located in the city of Cleveland.
Okay, Mr. Markwar?
Dave Marquardt from the Department of Public Works. This is the 2016 Operations Group 5 project. There's 2 roads involved, Munn Road from Rocky River Drive to Warren Road, and West 73rd Street from Dennison Avenue to Lorraine. The project is a resurfacing project. The scope will be milling off the existing asphalt surface, repairing bad base, minor drainage repairs, adding ADA curb ramps, adjusting castings, and then applying the asphalt surface course. Bids were opened February 23rd, 2016. 9 proposals were pulled from OPD and 6 bids were received. Office of Procurement Diversity assessed a 30% SBE goal. The contractor Katz Construction Incorporated has met the SBE goal with 32.7% participation. The engineer's estimate on this project was $1,694,895. We're recommending award to the lowest and best bidder, Katz Construction Incorporated, for $1,578,431.43, which is 6.9% under the engineer's estimate. The project is in Council District 3. The duration of the construction will be from 6/13/16 through October 15th of this year, 16, and that duration is approximately 4 months. Funding for the project is 100% county funds. Both roads have a poor condition rating, and we're asking for approval on second reading suspension of rules.
Okay. I'm glad to see that this is under the estimate, multiple bids. Any questions from member of council? Yes, Mr. Greenspan.
Thank you. The funding source you said was general fund, but the description says license tax fee,
I said 100% county funds.
county fund, right?
Yeah, road and bridge funds.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry.
I leapt to the, is that even a word? I took the assumption that when you said that, you were talking about general funds. So it's coming out of license tax, the 750 license tax fund? As
Yes.
described? Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Miller?
First of all, I would point out that that half of this project is in my district, in District 2, the Munn Road from Rocky River Drive to Warren Road is in my district. It's probably the first time in 5 years that I've had 2 road projects in one day, so it's a
You're
big
having a
deal.
good day then.
Yeah, it's a really good day. And my question is where is this contractor located?
Cleveland.
Brook Park. Brook Park.
Katz Construction is at Brook Park Road in Cleveland.
Okay, great.
15700 is their address.
15700 Brook Park Road. Okay, great.
Councilman,
Okay, Mrs. Camo?
when were the roads last done?
I don't have that information. I could get it if you'd like to know.
Okay. Yes, I would.
Okay, Mr. Miller, since it's in your district, you want to make the motion?
I do. I will Move that resolution 2016-0090 be recommended for the full council for consideration for second reading suspension.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. It's carried, and 90 goes to full council under second reading suspension. 91.
Resolution number 2016-0091, making an award on requisition number 36175 to Shermer Construction, the amount not to exceed $2,287,223.15 for replacement of Bagley Road Bridge number 03.45 over Plum Creek in the city of Olmsted Falls.
Yes, Dave Marquardt from the Department of Public Works. This project involves a full replacement of the structure. 3 proposals were pulled from the Office of Procurement Diversity, and 2 bids were received. Bids were opened on March 10th, 2016. The Office of Procurement Diversity assessed a 20% SBE goal. The contractor, Shermer Construction, is an SBE firm and received a 20% credit and have met the goal. The engineer's estimate was $2,100,000. We recommend an award to the lowest and best bidder, Shermer Construction, LLC, for $2,287,223.15, which is 8.9% over the engineer's estimate. We did review the bid tabs. The items where costs exceeded the estimates were in the cofferdam and excavating and bracing for the abutments. The unclassified excavating and composite box beams all had costs that were above the estimated. The project is in Council District 5. The construction period will be approximately 1 year. I don't have an exact starting date on that yet, but we will begin in this summer season. The funding for the project will be 100% road and bridge funds. The bridge has a general appraisal rating of a 5. This rating means it is in fair condition. We've been coordinating the design and construction sequence with the City of Olmsted Falls and the Ohio Turnpike Commission. The Ohio Turnpike Commission has a project that where both of the maintenance of traffic issues on both projects will need to be coordinated. So we have met with them in that regard. We ask for approval on second reading, suspension of rules.
Questions? Mrs. Connell.
Through the chair, after completion of road projects, what takes place? Is there anything where we go out and check, see how the work is done? I don't think we've ever discussed that in this committee.
On every project that we manage, we have full-time inspection and construction engineering. And when the project is complete and acceptance takes place, we have already looked at all of the testing that's needed. We've looked at the materials that have been put in. We know that it was constructed correctly. All of that occurs before we accept it. So everything is looked at and inspected and checked.
Before we pay the final invoice, is that what you're saying?
Before we give a final acceptance, and that would include a final payment.
Okay. And I'm sure we keep the data somewhere, but these bids that are presented to us after the completion of a project, they match up 100%?
Well, as with any project, you have changes that take place during the construction process. the bid items are, as they're listed, an estimate. So sometimes there's items that change as you get into the actual construction process.
Okay, and so we're never notified of those changes. I assume changes do occur. I was just wondering how we would get that. We don't need to vote on it or anything, but how would we keep up? Is that something that you could just, I guess, present us on a yearly basis, the changes on what the original was? And if not, we're not gonna see it again until the budget process.
No, you will see it. Any change that increases the contract amount has to be approved through council.
So then it shouldn't, not many come back, so.
If I could add to that, Stan Kozlowski, Public Works. A lot of the change orders you'll see more through the Board of Control. Just last week, we did approve a couple, and I know Councilman Miller usually asks for the details on these things, but our construction staff that Dave was talking about, there'll be additional quantities, sometimes there'll be reduction in quantities, and there may be new items. So all those items are presented. If it doesn't exceed $500,000, they get processed through the Board of Control. If there's a deduction, they're just on the consent agenda from Board of Control. So all those final payments, there'll either be there'll be amendments processed during the project for those adjustments. Then there'll be a final amendment where we accept the project would be the final actions. So all that stuff is processed through the public meeting. It just depends on the dollar amounts, which board or council they go to.
My concern would be, those that sit on the Board of Control, and I'm sure all of us could come if we chose. But I'm just wondering, like, once these original bids come out, and there's companies that are so close in bidding, maybe off by 200-some thousand, and if that one that actually won the bid has all these change orders and things of that nature, how that really reflects.
Chances are, if there was a change order for something, that both companies would have experienced the same issue. So if the contract went up with the low bidder, if the other bidder would have been in the picture, we would have had the same issue show up.
So our engineers check those things.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
One other thing, if I can add, if on federal aid projects, we're constantly audited by ODOT and they regularly come in. So anytime we have a project, and I know this has been a concern raised in the past, the contractor's just not out there doing whatever he feels like, that it has to be approved by our inspectors. And then if there's federal money, we have to run those things by ODOT before you'd even see those. But for consistency's sake, we always run the projects the same, whether there's federal money or local money. We just wouldn't have the ODOT step. So just to help you at ease on how we do that, the process is the same no matter what funding source for a consistency sake.
Any further questions?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Why was this one only set up for a 20% goal as opposed to the typical 30%?
Lenora Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. Typically, on a construction project, a road project, there are more subsets of work, longer, more items that can be subcontracted. On a bridge, usually it's a shorter project length. Usually you're only tapering to meet the existing termini on each side. And sometimes the bridge might be compact. It's not as many opportunities to subcontract parcels of work. There are opportunities, but not as much as a long roadway where you're gonna have asphalt, curbs, things of that sort. So that's why the goal at this point was set at 20%. Also, bridge projects tend to have a smaller set of contractors that are specialized or work in that area. That's their area of concentration, and that's shown by, as you look at the bids, we had the two bids for the bridges had a lower number where you had the one operations that had like 6 bidders that bid.
And is this a local company that won the bid?
Yes, Shermer Construction. It's located in North Olmsted.
Okay, fine. Thank you. One other question.
This was only $4,000 difference. This was closer than the the Kentucky Democratic primary. Mr. Miller?
How many bids were received?
We only received 2 bids.
And the other bidder, was it also an SBE, or was it a company that was not an SBE but met the goal by using subs?
Suburban Maintenance is also an SBE. And they met the goal. They got 20%, but they also subcontracted 11% to Neroni and Sons, which is a SBE.
I see, okay. And how much higher was their bid?
They were about, 4,000. Yeah, you just said that.
Yeah.
4,000.
4,000 on 2,287,000.
Yes, closer than the Kentucky primary, you're right, okay.
Follow up on that, Mr. Chair.
Mrs. Conwa?
So since we take the best and least and best, how did you determine between these two? Because the second one, Suburban Maintenance, actually had a better SBE percentage that they were gonna do. So even though that 4,000, they also said they were gonna meet a 31% goal. So just wondering how you guys determine what, in something that close. I think this is the closest bid we've ever seen.
Yes, for a bid, there's lowest and best. And in this case, for SBE participation, there's a price preference. So we only consider the price preference if the lowest bidder doesn't meet the qualifications.
Okay. Thank you.
So this proves the estimate was pretty close. Okay, and so the estimate was 2,100,000. Both bidders were slightly above the estimate.
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan?
So I have a question maybe for Stan. So when we say make a general statement that the actual bid is less than the estimate, backing up, is the estimate a foundational item used in the budget?
Yes, what we do is, when we go forward, when we initially program a project, we do a planning level estimate. Then through the design phase, there's various steps that we go as the plans are, as we do the inspection of it and figure out exactly what the detailed scope is gonna be. We modify that estimate, and then when we go into that biennial budget adjustment, those estimates are basically based upon, for the most part, the latest design estimate that we have at the time, which is more detailed. A lot of times our planning estimates are more per linear foot per lane mile based upon the scope of work. So they're adjusted and reflected before we go forward, and that's how we manage our budget in that manner.
So then to carry the discussion one step further, when we say that a project is under the original estimate, then we're actually saying it's under budget. It's under the budgeted amount.
Yes, it's under the engineer's estimate that we budgeted for, correct?
Okay, so then it will be safe to say that this is where, or is it safe to say this is where we come up with surpluses in these accounts so that we're able to either fund other projects or carry the money forward?
Correct, or we use that as monies for if a little change order comes in. So that's how we try to, it's really hard to balance this stuff because you don't know what you're gonna uncover sometimes when you're out there, but that's how we basically operate with the budget.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Miller?
I'll move to refer Resolution 2016-0091 to the full council for consideration to be voted on for second reading suspension.
Second? It's been moved and seconded. Any final questions? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. 91 is sent to the council for second reading suspension. Mr. Marquardt, you did very well today. And how do you spell your last name? M-A-R-Q-U-A-R-D. Okay, well, thank you very much. Yeah, good Scrabble word. Okay, any other comments from the public
No one is signed in, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Well, we got these covered in record time. I thought I was going to be here past noon, so we're done with our business. This meeting stands adjourned.